Welcome to Real Talk. I'm your host, Chris Rogers. My guest today is Suzka Mares, a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm personally excited about this episode today, so let's get right into it. Hi, Suzka. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm from Vancouver. I grew up in North Van and had a pretty strict upbringing. Parents were from Europe, came from war, from trauma. Other than that, had a really great life up in the mountains and skiing and education, schooling. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for...
I've been in Vancouver for about 15 years, and I've been counting, well, you included, I think I told you that a while back. I've been counting how many people who were actually born in Vancouver. And you're one of those rare, you're like the 35th, I think, person in Vancouver in 15 years. So it just says a lot about the city. Very transient, I love Vancouver. Vancouver is amazing. And you've lived here all your life. Have you lived anywhere else?
No, I was born here, but we moved, I moved to Germany when I was 10, lived there for a year. And then I went to university in Nevada, in Reno. And then I've traveled a lot since then. So I've lived in about 6 different countries.
Wow.
And just most recently, I came from Europe. As you know, I was there for a year. So I'm just fresh back in Vancouver and loving it again. So
you keep going in and out. But
yeah.
So growing up, I mean, you started at a young age with the moving, or was it how old were you when you left Canada? First left to live elsewhere?
We were pretty stable, and I grew up in North Van specifically.
Yeah.
So I was there for the first 10 years of my life. Pretty stable, yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you have any siblings? What's your family dynamic?
I do, yeah. I have an older sister. So both her and I, she's 3 years older. So she was a pianist and I was a violinist. We were trained early. So we had very disciplined lifestyle, Catholic upbringing, right? So, yeah, it was definitely not your normal childhood. Because my mom really wanted to keep us away from too much of that Canadian mentality. They were very proud of their European roots, so they really, kind of wanted the discipline and the real, we're different than,
Yes.
Yeah, which was a bit isolating, but also good in other ways because I learned a lot of skills. So
Yes.
that was helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So growing up like a teenage Suzka, how different are you? And I'm asking that question based on your profession, of course. Yeah. Looking back, let's say you can have a conversation with your 16-year-old self. What advice right now, knowing what you know and what you do, what advice, if you could give your 16-year-old self 2 pieces of advice, what would it be?
That's a really good question. Listen to yourself. Really learn about you and follow your own intuition. I mean, I always did do that, but adults don't always know what's best. And yeah, just know your worth. So really learn about, for me, that was really important because we were in quite a tumultuous situation just with family because, like I said, it was so strict and there was a lot of pressure to be the best and to achieve and to really stand out. I was performing at 5 years old already and just doing all these things that I kind of felt like I missed out on my childhood in many ways.
Performing in what's, tell me it's in the home of the living room of the family, right?
That and also in old age retirement homes.
What?
Yeah. So
tell me.
Yeah.
Now you just opened. Okay.
Yeah.
How? Tell me. How
Okay.
did this happen?
So we'd go to school,
Yes.
and then after school, we'd go to music school for a couple hours. So I'd spend the rest of my evening in music school.
Whose decision was it?
This is my mother, yeah. So my mother was very keen on, just to give the backstory, they moved from Europe and she was a doctor. She was studying medicine there. And when she came to Canada, she would have to redo it all. And she didn't want to do that. So she ended up having kids. And so she kind of resented it in a way because she wanted to be a doctor.
She had every right to resent it. I was in an Uber, as an aside. I was in an Uber yesterday.
Yeah.
And in India, my driver, he's a lawyer. And we had this very same conversation. He's like, they want me to go back to law school from scratch. And I'm like, that really sucks. A Canadian American lawyer could go to India or go to any other country and they can take their law degree or take their doctor's degree and they can go right in and fit right in as long as they speak the language, which, of course, to be able to communicate. But in the reverse, that's a whole different side.
No, it is very unfair. And I could tell she was very upset.
Of course.
And this is the thing for a child's brain. You think there's something wrong with me. Like I did something wrong because my mom's always unhappy and she wasn't very happy about that. So, which was okay because she put all her energy into her kid. So she was very, I don't want to say like helicopter parent, but yeah, very like, where are you? What are you doing? Like everything. There was a structure. You had to be everywhere that she wanted you to be. So it was a very controlled environment.
Yes.
And in that way, I was really, personally didn't work for my personality.
Yes.
So I'm very independent, more of a free spirit.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would just hang out in the trees and I would love nature. So that was kind of my
Your escape and
my
coping.
safe place. Yeah.
Yeah. And so school, what was school like?
School, I loved it. I really loved it because that's where I could be
The
with
social
friends.
aspect of it.
I was
what about
always
learning? Were you big into learning? Like you?
I was. Yeah.
Were you
I
a
was
nerd? You weren't a nerd.
I was both. I was a nerd, but I was also an athlete because my mom kept us, running up early in the morning at 6 a.m. We'd go running and everything. That's what I mean by like really strict.
That is structured, man.
Yeah.
Like
So it was very
what time did you get up? What were
It
you?
was like military. 6 a.m. Yeah.
Did
like
she go
before
with you
school.
guys, or she just like?
Yeah, because
Wow.
I don't know if it's, I think it is quite a European mentality and maybe Czechs in particular, but they're very competitive. So they have to win. They have to be the best. So when it was like, sports day or you're into, some kind of activity, you had to be like, she had to make sure that we'd win. So we get up early and make sure we were training and running and doing all these things. And with my sister, it was with music, with piano, and well, both of us. I was doing the violin, she was doing piano.
Did that foster a sort of competitive edge in you? Or was it natural? I mean, were you naturally, prior to your mom, let's say your mom didn't push, or you a naturally competitive individual?
Not really. I don't think so.
Your
Not
sister,
anymore.
was she?
I don't think she would have been either necessarily.
Did you guys compete?
Yes, we did together between each other, absolutely, because then it was competition for affection, right, and for being liked more and that kind of thing. So what happens in the family system that I grew up in, and this is well known now in like toxic family systems, there's like a favored child, which is called the golden child, and then there's the other one that's sort of not as as important and made to feel that they're not as important, that they're called the scapegoat.
But even at a young age, you still, because in my own family dynamic, I'm not going to go into it, but you sense when your parents is favoring one.
Absolutely.
Because you hear it, you see it, and you feel it.
Absolutely.
The feeling is the worst part because you feel like you're not loved.
Oh yeah.
And so for you, what was it like? Was it your sister was more favored?
Absolutely. And I knew it. I could tell. Like,
and you resented that.
I just didn't understand it. Like I kept questioning and I'd ask, like, who do you like better? Who do you like better?
Oh,
like
you'd actually ask
I'd ask the question and I knew the answer, but I just wanted her to answer, right? And and to this day, it's still the same. Like nothing's changed. That's what's so interesting about it. It's like you can bring it up, but if you bring it up, it's like stop complaining and stop being a victim. It's like, but I know it's true. You
saw it. You lived it.
Yeah, you do favor
your
this
sister,
person.
she was a pianist. Has she stuck with it, or?
Yeah, she is, and she teaches, and she does really well. She's still. I mean, she was like world champion at 18. So she was my mom was very involved in her life, and basically the whole family structure revolved around her and her becoming this famous pianist.
You've heard the term tiger moms, right?
Yeah.
Your mom was the European version.
Absolutely.
It's like, you're going to do this, and that's what you did.
Yep.
In my case, my mom was like, you're going to do this, and I looked at her and I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're going to, I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
And then she just give up.
Exactly. And that was kind of me too. Like I did what she would, I was pretty good. I wasn't that rebellious. I was, I think, quite a good child in that way and listening. And I was also very, I always had this natural sense of wanting the family to stay together. Yes. So I was very much, it's called parentified child, but when you're a young person and you're helping your family stick together, like my parents would have fights or something, I would be up at night keeping them together and be like, okay, well, so-and-so said this, and I don't think she meant that. And I'd be like very concerned that.
So you started your career early,
yeah,
before
I'd be
you
like
knew it.
10 years old, and I'd be up all night counseling them and
Trying to
making
keep them
sure,
together.
yeah, there was no, anger outburst if I heard anything like that. And yeah, so it was.
And mom and dad were there together. Like, did they stay together? Or?
Yeah, they're still together. Yeah.
Wow.
But they also came from trauma, right? They came from
Yes.
the war. They both lost their parents. They both lost their fathers really early. So that's the thing about trauma is people tend to gravitate towards others that have the same trauma as them without even realizing it. It's like an unconscious thing that people
Yes.
do.
Yes.
And you can grow together and you can learn and you can evolve with that. Or, it can also just be constantly battle the whole time. And, hopefully you make it through. And I mean, yeah, they're still together. I think it's like, I don't know, 50 years or something. Marriage anniversary. So, yeah.
So what would you say was the motivating factor, if I may, that got you into hypnotherapy? Like, when did you first, the word itself, what, do you recall the first time you heard the word?
I mean, I heard it a lot throughout my life, but I never really gave it much importance or weight. I did a lot of yoga, meditation. We did that growing up as well. So we did that for years. I was yoga certified. I taught for 10 years. And I did plant medicines. I did all kinds of things because I still felt this kind of aching pain inside of me, that loneliness and that what you mentioned earlier, that feeling of not being enough.
Yes.
And that there was some kind of void. And I felt that, and I felt it in a way that I think it just started to get more obvious later on in life, which is interesting because a lot of the times we suppress things that happen to us and it doesn't show up until later in life.
So your music, though, you stuck with it, and tell us a little bit about your music and what you do now. And in retrospect, do you regret, like, with your mom pushing you into music? It wasn't something you chose, but now you use it in your personal life. Is it a positive thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm super grateful for the discipline and for having to do the lessons and all of that because it's hard, especially when you're a kid. You'd rather be out playing. And,
of course.
I'd sit in my room and I'd have to practice and I'd have to perform for them in the living room. I didn't like that aspect of it. I didn't like performing at all. Just because it was so nerve-wracking.
Mom was tough.
Yeah, and then if I played a wrong note, it'd be like severe punishment. So that was not good. And
severe punishment is in tongue lashing, physical, like...
Yeah, like physical, verbal abuse, all of that. So it would be quite...
Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone doing that because if you help someone get somewhere out of fear, then, they can get really good at something.
It's trauma.
But it doesn't feel good. And that's basically what took me to the hypnotherapy. And I had to process everything that I'd gone through to make it a fun experience. So I only began to enjoy music in my 20s when I quit violin at 14, came back to it in my 20s with a whole new passion for I can do this style of music, that style of music, and I got to choose.
But what made you quit? What was it? Was it a thing or things? Like, was it a rebellion where you're just like, you know what, you pushed me into this, I like it, but you know what, I don't want to do it.
The pressure.
Was just the pressure?
Oh, the pressure to be perfect, and then the whole comparison, like your sister's doing this, you're not good enough, da da da, and then my sister.
So you saw your sister sort of elevating beyond your skill level and whatever, and you're like, I'm giving up.
Kind of, but it was just they were just mean to me. They weren't very nice about it. So my sister too, she was
rubbed it in.
Yeah,
she was like,
you're not really playing in tune, or you're not really playing on the beat, or whatever.
So how many years you away? You said from 16 to in your 20, probably 7-8 years.
I played from 5. I started at 5 years old, and then I played until about 14, and then I was also skiing. So I was up in the mountains. So I was also doing that. So
Where did you get time to sleep? You used to do so much.
I don't know. That's the thing.
Wow.
I missed a big part of my life. That's why I'm I just want to chill and relax.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question. What's the origin of hypnotherapy? I've only learned about it a few years ago, and obviously I don't know much about it. But what's the origin of hypnotherapy?
Well, apparently it goes way back to ancient Egypt. So it's like 1500 BC. and they had what was called sleep temples, and people would get purified and detoxed, and they would fast and cleanse themselves, and then they would go into this temple and they would fall asleep, and then a priestess or priest or shaman would come in and basically listen to them speak and talk about their dreams and interpret what their ailments were and what they were going through, and would help them get through whatever was coming up for them. So they were the original psychotherapy.
Wow.
Yeah, and then later on, I think 1800s, it was like Franz Mesmer. He was kind of the one. Mesmer, apparently he mesmerized people, literally. So then
Is that
it
his
kind of went
name?
from there. Yeah,
Mesmer.
yeah. And then Freud used it. So a few other sort of famous, therapists would use it. And but I didn't answer the question before about the person that brought me into it was Marissa Peer, and that is when I found her on YouTube actually speaking about hypnotherapy and how it could help you to really be comfortable with everything that's happened in your life, and to get over any kind of childhood trauma, and to really feel that you're okay in just how you are now, and that you don't have to do anything, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. And when I listened to her speak about it, I was just fascinated. And so I got trained by her.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Is she
so
Canadian?
she is from the UK. She's, British. And now I think she lives in the US. And she travels, and, huge motivational speaker, and talks about, helping people in business and overachievers, and just people, again, like helping people be comfortable with it's okay. Like, you don't have to keep overachieving, and just relax, and just
take it easy.
Exactly.
Let life be. The thing I want to know is why hypnotherapy as opposed to a psychiatrist or a psychologist? What made you, or there anything specific that made you go in that direction? Yes.
I went to university in the U.S., University of Nevada in Reno, and I took psychology, and everything was about putting people in little boxes. And, you fit this description, that description. And it was interesting. I learned how the brain works. That was fascinating. But then the next step was you could go into psychiatry. And in psychiatry, which was the next step up, you would learn how to put people in that little box and then give them pills to fix their problem. And as I was taking in all this information, I was like, this doesn't feel right. And it just isn't very natural. And then that was back in the day when, there was Prozac and all these things, and now there's everything, right?
Yes.
And so they're using a lot of medication, and I saw a lot of people get a lot of bad outcomes, numbing themselves with medication and not getting to the root cause.
Yes.
So I'm all about getting to the root cause, and I want to solve it at the root, because
hypnotherapy offers people that pathway, as opposed to going in the other direction. And that's not a knock against psychology,
no.
People who specialize in those areas.
No, and on that note, talking to a psychologist can be extremely helpful, and just figure out which way to go or what's wrong, and just letting it out, because who can you really talk to? You can only talk to a friend for so long, and they're going to be like, okay, enough, girl, or whoever. So people don't want to hear other people's problems for very long. Right. So it does serve a purpose, and it can definitely help, but you don't want to get stuck in that. It's a rut too, where you're just talking about the same thing over and over again, and they're not getting the kinds of results that hypnotherapy gets. And that's what Marissa Peer was talking about, is she was in psychotherapy for 30 years. And
she herself was.
Yeah. She was helping patients, and she was seeing psychologists because they weren't getting results. So it's like the next step up to kind of get out of just talking it over and over again.
And you also specialize in narcissistic personality disorder. Mm-hmm. And what's the reason for that?
Well, if you look in the world, we're run by narcissistic psychopaths.
Yes.
So there's a huge population of people. It just blew up pretty much about 4 or 5 years ago. It's fairly new. It's only been talked about really for the last 20 years. Yes. And it was coined as a term by, I believe, a man named Sam Vatkin, who is a narcissist himself. And then he is. And he talks about it, and he shares the information. And so, it became kind of a hot topic pretty much mostly like 5 years ago. And I had my own personal experience about 10 years ago with somebody that seemed really sweet and nice at first, and then all kinds of things started happening. And he even told me, like, I'm a narcissist. And I kind of laughed. I didn't think anything about it. I was like, okay.
Was it someone you were dating?
Yeah.
And he told you, hey, I'm a narcissist.
Yeah.
That is how did.
Well, it was kind of, it was like a kind of a joke. He was
Yes.
a video person. He was working on some videos. He was working like with some famous people, and he was kind of comparing himself to them and saying like, this person says they're a narcissist. I think I am too. And he was kind of identifying with the people that he was working with.
Yes.
And I was watching this all unfold, and I wasn't really sure like how serious he was. And then,
but you didn't even know what the red flags were when it comes to narcissistic personality.
No, not until he started doing like really crazy abusive things. And
how soon you started seeing those flags? Was it like
pretty early?
Wow.
About 3 months in,
which
is normal. It's about 3 to 6 months is when you'll start to be able to tell.
I've heard the 3-month thing, and it's true. In my personal life, I've seen people like at the 3-month mark. It's always around that.
Right?
What is that? That 90-day thing? Is it you think at that point the mask starts slipping?
Exactly.
3 months.
Exactly. People can only hold up a front for so long, right? You can go on a date with someone, and they can be nice and charming and sweet and think of you, and here's a coffee for you, here's this, and that's great. And you're like, oh, this person's so nice and thoughtful. But after 3 months, there's something changes. And if they're truly a narcissist, you'll start to see the changes in their behavior, how they treat you, the entitlement, the cruelty, the meanness.
What about sociopathy? Well, people who are sociopathic, all narcissists sociopaths as well, or
no, it's a very big spectrum. That's why it's there's so many different words and different kinds. There's malignant narcissists; those are the worst. So. They're kind of really take joy.
They come in different colors,
absolutely.
different grades.
Yeah, they take pleasure in hurting people and making them feel bad, and they don't care. It's basically a huge lack of empathy and compassion.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a step down from a psychopath, right?
Yeah,
Psychopaths, they feel nothing.
Exactly. They're able to like go and shoot a bunch of people and not care or not think, and
they can sit in a bloodbath and eat a meal and not literally not feel a thing.
Yeah, and there's actually a part of their brain that's not working. That studies have found when they do brain scans that there's actually a part of the brain, and also in narcissism, part of their brain is actually not lighting up, so to speak.
So normally you and I, like, for example, if I see a slug and it's really hot outside and it's that poor thing is moving at a sloth pace, and I'm like, somebody's going to come and just step on him. I pick him up because I feel, right? I pick him up and I'll go put him on the edge of the grass or whatever.
A psychopath wouldn't do that, or
they'll step on it.
Oh yeah, they'll just
crush and be like.
And that's what you'll see in even little kids. Like kids will start to have that kind of behavior, and
because they're born, right? Psychopaths are born. Like you can't like. How could you like? They would see something and just not feel, no empathy, they can't feel.
But it often is associated with something happening early in their childhood. Yeah, so they might have witnessed something traumatic or been treated really cruelly in the way that it shuts off their ability to feel, or they're just so angry and so like, oh my gosh, this person did this to me, and their child brain doesn't know this is happening, but they're protecting themselves, so they just stop feeling altogether. But that's very common with anyone that's been through trauma, and that's why you'll see people have addictions and drinking and all that. And
so some of the side effects I would like to, some of the things for me, addictions, codependent, like those are the side, what's that word I'm looking for? Yeah, I'll just say side effects of being a narcissist. But narcissists, those people, are they aware, like most narcissists, are they aware that they're narcissists, or they're just because that's the way they know?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Are they aware that their thinking process and the way they treat and manipulate others, are they aware of that?
Some are, apparently, and some are not. So the ones I know in my own experience, these people don't think there's anything wrong with them. They're like, I'm perfect, it's all you. Like this, it's not me, it's you, right? So they're very much, they'll blame everything on you. But apparently there are some self-aware narcissists, and they are out there. There's a few even on YouTube, and they have their own channels and everything. Of course, they do it for attention, but they're also actively working.
They're not doing it to help.
Well, some of them are. They're doing it to help people understand narcissism, but they'll literally say they can't help themselves. They're like, this is how we're wired, and this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm not going to do, and they'll spell it out. But they're like, they can't heal themselves at the level of like suddenly becoming super compassionate and empathetic.
Yes.
But I don't want to say that they're not able to ever heal, because I don't know. But so far, if you talk to any expert on narcissism, they'll say no.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, okay? What's the definition of a narcissist?
Okay, there's the dangerous narcissist, which is the person who is consumed with their self-importance, and they basically are so entitled, and they really believe that they're more special than anybody else.
Truly believe that deep down
Truly
inside.
believe that, and that causes them to act in ways that are extremely dangerous and hurtful to people around them. So that's sort of the short definition of that. With that being said, a lot of people love to call people narcissists nowadays. It's like the buzzword right now. So they're like, he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist.
It's like a misogynist.
Yeah,
I hear
like
that word so much.
Easy, right?
You're a misogynist.
Yeah. And they swear they were in a relationship with a narcissist. It's like, oh no, you will know if you were either raised by one or dating one or married to one.
Guaranteed trauma.
It's a very different type. Exactly. You're left with this real feeling of like loss of self-identity, the criticizing. They constantly criticize people. They have no empathy. They have no compassion. And they really, truly do not care about anyone else but themselves. And that's a dangerous narcissist. So that's the type of, one that most people get traumatized by.
So what are the different types of, like, when it comes to narcissism, what are the different types? How many? If you were to
I'm not
pick
sure
a number.
exactly how many. There's like covert narcissists. There's
Covert?
There's
How can you, are they
overt,
effective?
there's overt. Yeah,
Overt,
I mean, these are all
covert,
definitions. Again, I don't like.
And these are regular
boxes.
people in our lives. Like
Yeah,
in narcissism, it's not like there's a
they're
blinking
everywhere.
red light. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a blinking red light?
You know
or
what? That would be amazing.
Narcissist.
It would be amazing, and it would
Get
save
away from me.
It would save a lot of heartache and a lot of pain. There's a lot of women, particularly like mostly women. Even though now it's about half and half, but mostly it was like 70% men, mostly a male-dominated thing, because it was like in business and it was like so much of like getting ahead.
Does
so,
competitiveness,
like,
does that have to
CEOs,
do?
Yeah.
Is there a link with because
Yeah.
I know some guys who are overly
Yes.
competitive.
Yes.
I am not an overly competitive. Actually, I shun competition and competing and feeling like I'm better than this person. I have to be better. Actually, I try to learn. If I in my work in the film industry, when I'll give you a quick example. I went into a different department, and I was green, although I was experienced in one other department that was slightly related to it. And I went in, and I'm like, teach me. And what I noticed, some people kind of look at you weird. And what I encountered was insecurity. They're like looking at you like, oh, if I teach you, then you'll probably replace me or take my job. And I'm like, look, I'm not here to compete. I'm here to learn. Teach me. And when I don't know something, I ask. I'm one of those actually weirdos who ask for directions. If I'm lost, I'm not, some
That's
guys.
a good thing. That's a good thing. And to be honest, a narcissist will not do that. They know everything. They know everything about everything already.
Even if they know they don't know, they're still.
And they'll tell you they know you better than you know yourself. Wow. That's the scariest
Are
part.
they professional gaslighters?
Yes.
I dated a narcissist.
1000%.
I think I dated a narcissist. She, and I'll just run down quickly and you tell me.
Yeah, let me know.
Never accepted responsibility.
That's one of them,
When she's wrong,
one of the traits.
she had this trick where she would turn it around. She'd be like, you made me do that.
Yep.
And at that point,
Classic.
I've dated other girls who I think are women who would do that, but it wasn't that extreme. She was very, very adamant. She's like, I acted that way because you made me do it. And you know what that does? It makes you question. You're like, wait, did I? And you get confused because you're like,
goal.
In your head, you know she's wrong. You know how she reacted, in my head at least. But she just, and she was deft. It was the way she flipped it. And there were times I would pause and I'm like, okay, I know, this is gaslighting. This is gaslighting.
Yeah.
She would never accept responsibility. And for some reason, I always felt, I think we kind of have this innate, we have this thing that we know deep down inside, but you're thinking, this person is loving, that seem nice. Why is it that in these areas they just don't want to accept responsibility? So what are the typical signs, though, that I can, like that I knew at the time?
You just named it. Not being able to say they're wrong. They'll
But that's just
never
one.
apologize.
That's just one, yes.
They'll never apologize.
She never, oh my, I forgot that one.
Yeah.
I've never heard him
apologize.
sorry.
No, can't ever say they can do so many countless things.
You know what she did, though?
What?
And her way of apologizing?
What?
She would do something nice for me.
Yeah.
She'd be like, I'm going to cook you. And I'm thinking, dinner. An apology would do. And she would not. She would just go silent. She couldn't bring herself to apologize. So that's, okay, so those are two
Yeah,
areas.
and imagine being married or being raised by someone that's a narcissist. Your whole life, you feel like there's something wrong with you because they make you feel like you're the crazy one. And they'll even tell you, they're like, you're crazy, you're evil, you're this, you're that. You'll hear, people will hear that, especially if they're raised by somebody like that, or they're in a marriage, they're married to someone. The tables get turned very quickly. It starts off by, so when you're dating a narcissist, say, here's just a quick kind of handy book on how to know. They love bomb. So at first, you're the greatest thing they've ever met. You're amazing. They're like worshiping you. I had a boyfriend that did
make
this.
you feel loved. And
like, you're so amazing. You're so
amazing.
talented. You're so great. They're just like,
you buy it. It
you feel
soaks
good.
in.
Everybody, I mean, who doesn't like to
Yes.
feel good and be, praised, and it's nice. But be careful when it's a bit too much.
So is that calculated, though, or is it natural?
Yes. No, it's fully
Well,
calculated.
hold on, Suzka. Could it be that they truly feel like I love you at this moment? Because with me personally, when I feel the love for whomever I'm dating, I'm with, I would express it at the moment. You're saying this is a calculated move on the part of narcissists who just doing that, and right thereafter, is there something coming? So the love bomb, does it precipitate like something coming behind? Like what?
Yeah, this is the thing. I didn't know, before I knew what narcissism was, I didn't know that they weren't capable of love, but they aren't. They actually are not capable of the type of love that you and I are speaking of, that we feel for someone.
You get excited.
Yeah, you really
giddy.
genuinely care about them. You care about their safety. You care about their health. You care about how they're feeling.
They care about
They
none
do
of that.
not care about how you're feeling. They care about what they can get from you in the moment. So they're really good at using people.
Wow.
They will use you and then discard very easily. That's how you can have a relationship with a narcissist for years, and then all of a sudden, you break up, and then the next day they're with somebody new. No problem. I've heard of countless situations where, people are married, they have kids together, everything, 10 years, 20-year relationship, and they break up, and the narcissist is off with somebody else right away.
I got a question. Can you have narcissistic traits but not be a narcissist?
Yes.
Because as a human, we're complex, right?
It's a spectrum, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have this weird ability. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say the phrase. I have this weird ability to disconnect emotionally. Is that considered a narcissistic trait?
I don't think so. I mean, I think everybody will do that to a certain extent to protect themselves.
Self-preservation, in my case, is self-preservation.
Yeah, no, and this is the thing. Children will do that as well. That's what I'm saying. If you're raised in a toxic family situation, for example, a child will it's not happening. They almost go to denial, and you find ways of coping with the situation. You're not like, oh, this person's a narcissist.
You don't even know you're doing it. It's just your way of survival.
Yeah,
that's your way to survive
exactly.
emotionally.
It's self-preservation. But if you're emotionally cut off for extended periods of time, it's anytime something is a pattern, then you have to be careful. Because if you're always getting emotionally disconnected, then how are you ever going to be intimate with somebody and actually build a genuine connection, right?
Yes.
That's what happens with drugs. That's why people take drugs and all kinds of substances, is because they're worried about, they don't want to feel.
It's a coping.
They can't
It's
feel that deeply. Yeah,
to push
they're not
aside.
ready for it.
Okay, so I've been accused, not to get too personal, but I've been accused of being cold. I am not a cold person, actually.
I would never describe you as that, no.
Yeah, I don't think I am.
Yeah.
And to the people who subscribe to, what should I say, astrology, I'm Cancer. I'm July 18th. And for some reason, if I love someone, I care about them, and they were to disappoint me, I would give them chances. I wouldn't just I don't just flip the switch and be like, you're done. Yeah. But if I recognize in the person that they're not willing to change, or if I were to express, look, you hurt me, or you disappoint me, or you disrespect me, and I see the continuation of that pattern in their behavior, at some point, I have this ability, and I think, I'm not saying I'm special, to just flip a switch and be like, you're done. And when you're done, you're done.
Me too, absolutely. And I think that's healthy. No, you need to have that. Otherwise, this is how people stay in relationships with dangerous people for their entire lives. There's people that have been elders that have been married to a narcissist for 30, 40 years. And they're just like, their whole life is ruined. They're like,
that's suffering.
It's complete suffering. They never get to be themselves because the whole time they're walking on eggshells. Now, this is a term that's well known with any narcissist and anyone that's been in a relationship with one. This is how you feel, walking on eggshells, which means you start to be a little like, oh, when I say this, they do that, or when I do this, they do that. I better be careful and not say this or that. Now you can't be yourself anymore.
How do you spend years doing that? I can't even fathom.
That's the thing. It gets slowly, you get more and more.
It becomes the norm.
Exactly. You start to find ways we bend ourselves to, and this is why the empath and the narcissist goes together, because the narcissist will target a person that has compassion and empathy and kindness and all these good traits.
Question, do narcissists, do they really identify people who are ripe for the picking, so to speak? So that to them, they have ideal mates that if you're too strong, they would probably leave. They'd be like, no, it's too challenging. Or would they work on you for a time and be like, okay, no, this is not working out? Because in my head, I don't think I'm a narcissist, but I believe in the better nature of humans, right? So for me, I don't think that way. So in my head, I'm like, I don't think people sit there and be like, you know what, I'm going to manipulate this person and I'm going to get my way. I'm going to gaslight them. Do narcissists, do they have those thought processes that goes on, or they just, I find it hard, and call me naive, I find it hard to believe that people are that way. And I've watched a couple of videos in Narcissists, and there was this girl actually I was watching not too long ago, and she's like, this is how I manipulate my partners. And she just went down the list. And of course, I'm like, oh my, I'm going back to my relationships. Like, wait, this girl did that. Now, do these people really, like, consciously, with purpose, know exactly what they're doing, and when they're with that person, they really don't love them, but they're just it's like digging a hole until you hit rock bottom and then you just abandon, right? Is that really the, like, help me here.
That's a tough question, because I wouldn't know what's going on in their brain, but from studies and what, when you take a sort of a survey of all the narcissists and some of the worst sort of extreme cases and situations, when people are targeted, for example, there's that famous series like Dirty John, I think it's called, on Netflix.
Yes.
And where the woman is targeted. Okay, so this man comes into her life, and he knew exactly the things to say and do to get this woman to marry him, so he could, like, clean her out financially and everything. Like, how could that not be planned, right? So some of them, some of them I think really are, and honestly, I believe some of them really are doing it unconsciously. It's like they are so traumatized, they are so in their own self-hatred. It's actually, they have self-hatred. That's the most interesting thing that people don't know.
But the way they act, it seems like they love themselves because they're putting others down.
It looks like that, but they do that to make themselves feel superior because they feel so crappy inside, right? So
insecurity, is that a big thing?
Insecure, they have a lot of shame, Exactly. They haven't dealt with a very shameful experience, possibly from childhood. So the
saying hurt people, does it apply in that situation?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because they don't know how to communicate with people on that level of just being cool and chill and just, exchanging back and forth and showing love and caring about the person in a genuine, healthy way. Possibly because they never learned it, they never saw it around them. Some of it, though, sometimes a person is over entitled, so they could be raised in a great family, but the family built them, like, put them up on a pedestal. So
they go through the world thinking, I'm really here, and everyone else is there.
I'm the best at this because my mom told me so, and I'm this because, and their parents almost overinflated them.
So that's dangerous.
It's very dangerous because now they think the rest of the world is going to look at them like that, and they're like, no, I don't care. Like, you're not that, you know, you're just like everybody else. But to them, they've been built up in their head that they're this special, extra special being. So they treat everybody around them like crap. And that's the self-entitlement that's horrible to witness, and very arrogant, haughty behavior. That's very common. And just cruel, overall cruel. They literally will go out of their way to do cruel and sabotage things for you. Yeah.
I recently did a movie, worked in a movie, and a couple of times we were shooting a specific scene between the actual producer and the writer of the movie, the person who wrote the movie. It was about their life, and they were depicting the life with their mother. And a couple of times I was working, I was keying, I was department head, and I had to kind of stay on set. But a couple of times I wanted to walk away. I couldn't believe it. Her mom I think she was a narcissist, and the way she was treating her daughter, they were doing the scene over and over and over, and I was just sitting there like shell shocked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, because you're seeing it depicted.
You're
not hearing
it's hard to believe.
You're watching
it. It's hard to believe. Yeah.
And although it wasn't a reenactment, it was so powerful, and it actually bothered me for a bit. I was just like, you know, this is. Parents actually treat their kids
Mommy
like
Dearest. Do you remember Mommy Dearest, that movie? Yeah. You watch that. I read the book first.
Yeah.
And that's already like, wow. And then watch the movie. You're like, you cannot believe, like, is that for real? And you think this person was really famous, had this great life, they're this famous actor. Why would they treat their children like that, right?
Yes.
But that's the disease right there.
How did you get out of your situation with that person you dated who was a narcissist? How did you, after you identified it, of course, you didn't even know what it was. You just know it wasn't right. How did you cope? How did you deal?
Well, I'll tell you the brief story is they did a few sort of crazy, wild things that were physically violent and taking advantage of like my personal belongings and things, and like destroying stuff like my car. And then the final straw was my computer. They were sitting in my living room, and then they took my computer and threw it out the window, and it landed in the swimming pool. And I was like, what the heck just happened? And we were literally just having a conversation. Everything was fine. And he'd asked me to log into something like one of my video channels or something, my Vimeo. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't remember the password. I'm like, I don't know, it's not working. And I was cooking at the same time. I was making some food. So like, I don't know, we'll do it later. And then I went back to cooking. And in the meantime, I go back to the kitchen. And in the meantime, he takes the computer and throws it into the swimming pool. I'm like, what the heck did you just do? Like, it was a moment of like, that's insane. And so he basically told me, like, take me to the psychiatric ward. Like, he was asking for help. Like, he was really, really hurting. And that was my first clue, like, okay, I didn't know what to do.
Something is wrong
I couldn't
here.
help him. Like, I didn't have the means, and it's a big man, you know, so I'm not going to handle that. So they basically took themselves in, and they ended up having to get help and everything.
So
and
that was
took
the
medication.
first sign. What was the second one?
No, that was the end. That was the last. That when you said what was the final thing, that was kind of the final thing.
Okay. Wow.
And I still stuck with them. Like,
but there were other small red flags.
Yeah, along the way.
But that was the last one. You were like, this is
serious.
This is not.
Yeah.
And did you end the relationship at that point?
Not right then. I still stuck with them, like when they went to the hospital, because I didn't want. You don't want to abandon someone at their worst time, right? So you still feel that sense of responsibility, like, oh, I don't want to be that person.
I don't share the same sentiment anymore.
Right?
I did that. You have to.
No, me neither.
From now on, I'm walking away.
Me neither.
I stayed because I felt I would be a betrayal if there was this one person, and I'm not going to go into it because, and when I saw when the big one happened, the first one, I've seen little red flags, but I didn't pay attention to it because I'm like, oh, come on, that's normal.
Yeah.
But the big one, when it happened, I felt it would be a betrayal if I left right then and there.
Yeah, well, exactly.
In retrospect now, I should have delicately cut it off and walked away, because I went back and it didn't get better.
No.
We had conversations about it, how it's not good, it's unhealthy, it's toxic. I don't have the tools necessary to deal with this. I don't know how. I've never been in this situation. So can we work together? Yeah, of course. And then boom again. Same. And I was, that's when I was like, okay, switch. I went for the switch. I'm like,
Yeah, no one's trained for that. And even if you are a therapist and you're in a relationship with someone, your job is not to like keep them sane. Like that's, that's insane behavior when they're starting to act and do these violent things, right? So there's not a lot you can do. And you have to protect yourself. That's called self-love. Like you have to put, and that's very common for people pleasers and people that have, like I said, are codependent. They tend to put others in front of themselves, which also isn't healthy.
But it's a human thing.
It is. And that's the thing. It's like we want to help people, especially in distress. It's natural to want to help people. And this is what the narcissist preys on. They do choose people that they can tell
vulnerable.
Are very empathetic, caring. They do have a lot of love. They show love. They have a lot of friends, all these kinds of things. I had these things.
So it's a playground for a narcissist, right?
And then their first goal is to cut you off from all those people. So they'll immediately cut you off.
Your support group, the family, the mom, they just cut it.
Absolutely.
And so it's isolation. They isolate you, and then now you're basically a property. You're their property.
Yeah, you can't do anything. Now you're stuck with them and their reality, and now they're convincing you you're the crazy one. You're not this. You're not doing enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough, you're not wealthy enough, you're not anything enough. You'll never be enough for a narcissist.
But from the outside looking in, you I'm sure you've had friends or family who were or have been in a relationship with a narcissist, and you can see it from the outside. But when you tell the person, they're like, no, they make excuses.
They can fool people on the outside. They're very good at that.
To me, it's like if you explain, if like we're friends and let's say I'm dating someone and that person's a narcissist or a psychopath, whatever it is, and you say to me, yes, of course, the natural response would be to defend the person because you're like, you don't know them as I know them, right? Yeah. That to me is super frustrating. Yeah. But there is a question, however, I want to ask. What's the connection between narcissism and cults?
Oh, that's a great one. We are in, there's a lot of cults around us. So all these cults that we see around are run by narcissists. They tend to be narcissists. So
you can't be a cult leader is what you're saying and not be a narcissist.
As far as I know, I haven't heard of it. No. I don't know. Maybe they're called different things. They may be a psychopath or something, but all of them have like very high degrees of narcissism because they already believe they are to be followed. Like they're extra special. Like
Kanye West. No, kidding.
Yeah. I don't want to get into that.
I don't even know the guy.
But I mean, there's so many cults right now, like Hillsong. They've been around for years. These are like Christian cults, Christian organizations.
Is Hare Krishna? Is that Hare Krishna? Is that a cult?
I don't know much about them. I think so, but I can't comment. I don't know much about them, so I don't want to say.
I don't know anything about cults. I only like those that rose above the surface. David Koresh.
Yeah, there's Children of God. That was a huge one in Hollywood. So the Phoenix family was involved with that one, where everyone was like, pray to God, pray to Jesus, and then the elders were having sex with the kids, and that was normalized.
Whoa.
Yeah, so there's tons of traumatized people from that, and the cult is still alive. Like, it's still going on.
Is there a documentary out there on that cult?
Yes, there's quite a few. Yeah,
I'll look into that.
Yeah, and then there's Nexium, which was another famous one, started in Vancouver here. Yeah, there was a lot of famous actors involved with that one. And people, they were branding each other, and it was women doing it to other women. So this headmaster guy, obviously a narcissist and psychopath and other things. I mean, I'm not going to diagnose him, but clearly crazy.
Yeah.
Telling people that they're going to be empowered
what
by doing
these. What makes them so successful? They have to be charmers, though. Like a narcissist.
Exactly.
Are they like champions?
Super charming. And that's how they get you.
I read somewhere that they're intelligent, above average intelligence, too, because you have to understand psychology, right? I mean, can you be a narcissist? Can you be a dumb person to be a narcissist?
Yeah, there's some dumb narcissists. I wouldn't say they're all highly intelligent. No.
They're not. But the most effective ones, I mean, these people have...
They're quite smart.
It's a cult of personality, right?
Yeah.
Because they get people to fall in love with them. Yeah. They gaslight and brainwash. Yeah. But you don't
have to be that intelligent, really. Like to tell a person I love you, and this they're faking. They're faking their emotions. Yes. So it's very easy to get someone to believe you. If you tell me something, I'm going to believe you. Like, why wouldn't I? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they know that they're basically taking advantage of the fact that people are going to take you for face value. So they are expert actors. They're so good at acting that you believe they are who they show themselves to be. Yes. And this is where that 6-month mark comes in. But I've heard even people not knowing the person's a narcissist until 2 years. Like, they'll get married to them and then the mask will fall.
Then
that
the mask
happens.
slips. So
some people play the long game. And again, I don't know if that's conscious or unconscious on the narcissist part, but clearly it's unhealthy and it's dangerous. And there definitely are, these signs of charming, being love bombed at the beginning, overly complimented, and just too much too soon. They want to move in real quick. They want to get married. Like this one person I was telling you about, I was proposed to after 6 months. They wanted to get married. And I'm like, I don't know. And I kind of wanted to, but then I was like also scared because already the red flags were there, right? So if we are in touch with our intuition a bit, we're like, something doesn't feel 100%.
So let me ask you. The common sentiment is that if you fall into a cult, right, you must be unintelligent, you must be stupid. That's not really the case, is it?
No. It's usually people that are searching. They're longing for family. There's a lot of lawyers, doctors, highly successful people.
So-called intellectuals.
Exactly. People you would
in cults.
Exactly. You would associate with it being intelligent and having degrees and all these things that will give up everything that they have because a guru or somebody that's self-important that believes that they have all the answers tells them they've got to do this thing, and if they don't do this, they're never going to reach nirvana or this or that. And right, I mean, there's horror stories about Scientology. Perfect example, exactly.
We're not going to go there into it because I have a specific reason for not going there. I'll tell you later.
Yeah, no, that's smart. Yeah, no, there's some huge cults that we know of really well that people aren't calling cults. I think that one now there is some documentaries on it, so people do know. But they were, I mean, huge. When you go to LA, I don't know if you've seen on the main strip there, there's an office right there.
At all cost.
There's an office right there where it's like, join Scientology.
There's one here in Vancouver.
Yeah, they're very open about it.
I didn't know. So one day I was driving by, it was at Dunsmuir.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like, is that a Scientologist? I was shocked because I've worked with Scientologists. I remember in New York, I was in college at the time, and I actually got a job at a rental facility, and the owner was a Scientologist, and he was trying to get me. He's like, "Hey, I belong to this organization, and I think I didn't know what it was at the time, so I'm like, what is it?" And he's like, "It's called the Church of Scientology," and I'm like, "Scientology? What is that?" And he explained it to me, and he's like, "Yeah, there's a pamphlet, you can go take a course or whatever." And the approach, that was the first time I was, I had a second attempt at recruitment for Scientology, but that was the first one, and I knew nothing about it. I was a kid, and he was like, "Yeah, just read the pamphlet," and I read it, and it seems very benign, and like, I was like, okay, all right. I wasn't going to do it, but I was just I was working for him. So I'm like, yeah, I'll think about it. And he's like, yeah, it has helped me a great deal in my career, in my business, and blah, blah, blah. And then I met this other person, just so happened to both of these people in the film. And this other guy, he's like, yeah, I took some courses and stuff, and you should definitely, there's some positive stuff. And then I watched the documentary. Then I watched Leah Remini, the actress. Ooh. And after that, I'm like, bullet dodged.
You can't get out. That's the thing. Once you're in the cult, getting out, it's like the mafia. Good luck with that. Because as soon as you get those red flags and you really know, okay, this is not good, this isn't for me, and they see you wanting to get out, they come after you even stronger. You're not getting out of here.
We have big stars. Tom Cruise, Kirstie Alley, late, John Travolta, and other stars. Do they have something on these people? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, come on.
Do they what?
Do they have something on these people?
They
gotta have.
Of course they do.
As the Russians call it, compromise.
Yeah, there's blackmail. I mean, even what's his name?
You gotta have.
Epstein guy had all that, right? That's how he was able to do what he did. He had
all of these
everybody.
People.
He had something on everybody, and that's why nobody will expose them.
It's really sad that he killed himself, though, right? No, I'm kidding. We're going in a different direction.
That's a
whole different conversation. But so to me, when it comes to, for example, the question I want to also ask is, when it comes to how pervasive is narcissism in our society, when it comes to leadership, politics, entertainment, how pervasive is it?
Do you know a guy named Trudeau, for example? I mean, there's a few
I've heard of him.
There's a few people that exhibit very common narcissistic, psychopathic traits, and they're all at the top of the food chain, so to speak. And the problem is we have, as a society, we look up to these people.
Yes.
We look up to people that have the big houses and the cars and the fancy lifestyle, because most narcissists are very successful financially because they love money and they chase money in that way, specifically for power and control. It's not so they can get wealth and share it with all the poor people and set up orphanages and help others.
That's not the reason.
It's usually sinister reasons. Yeah,
Yes.
it's self-serving. It's for their own benefit, so they can live their life of luxury and have everything
and
they
use it
need.
to wield power and to manipulate others.
Get more and more. Like, they're addicted to power and they're addicted to control. And it's that's the definition basically of the narcissist.
So when a narcissist realizes that he's losing his mark, quote unquote mark, what do they go into, like, desperate mode? Like, what are the things, like, with your situation, he threw like something out the window, like that was his way of saying that was extreme. Like there were 20 different ways an average, I guess, normal person like myself would think of dealing. Oh, you don't want to give it, you have something high. He threw it out the window into a pool. That's like 0 to 100.
Yeah. And this is really important for people to know if they're in a relationship with a narcissist and you need to get out, like it's getting dangerous. They will get more dangerous towards the end when they know that you're trying to get out. And this is why a lot of women, for example, because most of the time it's like a male that'll be the narcissist with the woman, he'll be physically violent. And he'll catch wind that she's trying to leave or make an escape. They'll get worse and scarier. And a lot of murders will happen at that point. There's higher incidences of that occurring because they just get so desperate and they would rather that person dead than them get away from them, because they can't be abandoned. That's their biggest thing. Because
of their insecurity.
They just, they're a huge fear of abandonment.
Statistically, you're saying that there are more male narcissists than female. But is there like an uptick or rise in female narcissism that you guys see?
Yeah. So in the past, I would say it was higher percent. It was like 70% or something male.
The ratio is 70% to 30%.
Yeah. And now it's kind
but
of
the scale is
evening
tipping.
out. Yes, evening it out. Yeah.
Would you consider a female narcissist more dangerous?
Just as dangerous, I mean, in different ways, right? Because she's not going to be, if it's a...
she wouldn't be physical, most likely would be physical.
It's emotional.
It would be emotional and psychological manipulation.
Absolutely. She can completely ruin a man.
Using her femininity, her sexuality.
Yes, she can emasculate a man, completely make him feel useless, worthless, all these types of things by, again, being super critical, highly critical of them. Everything they do is wrong.
Is Amber Heard coming to mind?
Yeah, that would be...
She's a typical...
That would be one.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a sort of famous example. It's weird. They don't talk...
Is Kanye West a narcissist?
Yeah.
I mean, Obama called him a jackass like so many years ago.
I know, it's a tough
He's
one.
an asshole.
I like his art. That's a tough one for me.
As an artist.
I love his art, so I'm like, oh, but
I mean, that's beyond reproach. His musical genius and talent, and I hate saying the word genius, but he's an amazing producer. Yeah. But as a person, but there's some mental health issues there with him too. It's not just I think he's an asshole. Yeah. One time I saw an interview with him, and he's like, I told you I'm God.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said, and I mean it. I'm God. And he had that look in his eye, and I'm like,
that's scary.
It was scary because there's like, he actually believes he's a God. Look, I'm not knocking anyone who identifies as a God. Yeah. I can identify as Your Highness, right? Yeah. I'm like, from now on, call me Your Highness. No, I don't believe that. I'm not Your Highness. But he truly, he had that, there was like a fire blazing in his eyes. And he's like, I am God. That's what I told you. Yes. That is who I am. Yes. And that's what I believe. And you better, in my head.
Their face will change. Their eyes will change. There's been incidences, I've seen this myself, where their eyes will go black. Like, it's almost like a demonic possession in a way. Like, you will see this, and people will describe that. Yeah.
He was talking. He was normally, and he was talking.
They get possessed.
And then he was just like, I just told you exactly. I'm a God. And you're like, because I'm thinking it's a joke. At that point, you're thinking it's a joke. It's not a joke. No. He truly believes what he's saying. And to me, that's incredible.
And that is the scary part about it, because again, when you're with someone that truly believes what they're doing and saying is 100% right, and there's no other
flexibility.
way, it's their way or the highway, you're with a dangerous person, right? Because we can all have our thoughts and opinions, and I think this very strongly. Okay, great. When you tell me something else, I still have to take that into consideration. Okay, that's your opinion now. We're going to talk about it, right? The narcissist doesn't have that. It's like, I'm right, and that's just how it is. And you're wrong, and the other person's always going to be wrong. And you'll find that any narcissist is highly argumentative. They love to argue, and you'll never win with them. There's no point in arguing with a narcissist.
Empirical proof,
no,
like you put
you can't
the proof
win.
is in the pudding right in front of them. They would still find a way to turn it around, gaslight, like, okay. So, have you ever had a patient that was a narcissist, like full blown, and you kind of like sit there?
I don't attract narcissists, thankfully. No, I get people that are concerned that they're with a narcissist.
Would a real narcissist like actually realize that they're narcissists and come in and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go to therapy?
Great question. And the answer is no. That's the thing. When you know it's a narcissist, when you tell them like, okay, I think you need help, you need to see a therapist, and they're like, oh no, all therapists are crazy, they can't help me. And if they go to therapy for whatever reason, you get them into the room, they will convince the therapist that the other person's the crazy one. So narcissists are so clever and so good at their game and manipulation that they can charm a therapist that does not know about narcissism well enough. And this is why it is challenging to find someone that is informed on this topic, that can actually help someone out of a situation with that type of a person, because they're so good at gaslighting, lying, deceiving, and they can pull the wool over almost anybody's eyes, even therapists that have like years of training.
There is a therapist, a very prominent therapist, and I watch her videos.
Which one?
Oh my God, I can't remember her name.
Because I know almost
She's
all of
an
them.
Indian woman.
Dr. Ramani.
She's
amazing. Yeah, she's the best.
I saw her. Thanks for bringing that up.
She's one of the best, yeah.
Dr. Ramani said, there was someone interviewed her, and the interviewer was like, do you ever have, this question I just asked you, do you ever have a narcissist, come up and or come into you for consultation? She's like, nope. He's like, so how do you know? How do you get to diagnose? She's like, the only time a narcissist would ever go to therapy is if they're court ordered.
Yeah,
and that blew
exactly.
my mind.
No, that's absolutely
true. But that
true.
fits in exactly with the motto.
True.
They would not, even if they know they're a narcissist, they wouldn't come in, because again, that belief, that overall belief is that I know better. You cannot help me. I'm smarter than you. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's court cases, you can watch court cases, and you will hear them speaking, and there'll be evidence against them that's super obvious, and they'll be like, no, it wasn't me, I didn't do it.
Narcissists are actually prone to also be their own lawyers. Even if they have no training, they would go in and defend them.
That's common.
They would push aside like court appointed. They're like, no, I'm going to go on that stand, and I'm going to show all of you
because they can do better.
Because they can do.
And they know better. They're better. They're smarter. They're everything. They do think they're gods. They are the everything.
But isn't that a defense mechanism, though?
100%, yeah.
It has a direct correlation to trauma and whatever they went through. Because in my head, I'm like, if I get in trouble, I want a lawyer. I don't know terminology. I don't know, legal. They believe they can go read a book or watch a video, and they can go up there and they can do, they can do a better job than a defense attorney. That is insane.
Well, this is it. They're covering up for such low self-esteem and low sense of self. They don't have that. They don't really
But in their
truly
behavior,
love
it
themselves.
seems like the opposite, though.
That's because they're overcompensating for what they don't have.
Wow.
That's the thing, and they become so good at it. The truth hurts so much. You can't tell a narcissist the truth. If you tell them the truth,
it hurts them.
They will crumble. Like that's when they will like resist even more, because they work so hard to put on this front that if you're like, I don't think that's true, and this is actually the fact.
So basically what you're saying is they build a house of cards for self-preservation, defense, and they do everything within their power to apply crazy glue in every areas that come to keep it together. But they know it's a house of cards. You don't, because what they project to you is this house built of titanium, and they want to bring you into that reality. But they do know it's a house of cards. And every time you pull one of the cards, intentionally or unintentionally, they see that, they recognize that, and they become even more Wow.
They go tighter.
They even
pull the
resort
chain
to
tighter.
murder, right? Like
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're very,
narcissists,
very,
when they
very
lose
dangerous.
control.
Oh, very scary. Yeah, that's why you have to really have a game plan to get out if you are in a dangerous situation like that or married to somebody.
So one of our viewers right now is married to a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them? Or if they're sitting in front of you, what would you say to that person?
Get
Who is
help.
physically that? Wait, hold on. I should
yeah.
rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a marriage, or one of your clients in a marriage. They come into you for consultation, and they've been with a narcissist for 10 years. They've been physically abused, verbally, psychologically abused. What are the tools that you give that person to be like, this is how you get out, this is how you extricate yourself from this, and there are kids involved, I might as add. What do you say to that person?
Well, each situation obviously is going to be different, but they really need to educate themselves on narcissism
About
itself.
who and what a narcissist is.
Exactly. So they know that they're not the crazy one. They're definitely going through something. This person has a condition. They have to protect themselves. So they do need to tell somebody, even if it's just a close friend, what is happening, one other safe person. Start building a
support network.
Have a support
network.
Absolutely, 1000%. Possibly.
Do not allow the person to cut the strings to all of those support.
If you need to sneak out and just go down the street, down the block to tell a neighbor, tell them. Anything, just one safe person that you know could pick up the phone and call the authorities or something, because often the narcissist will cut you off from family and any help. That's their goal.
That's one of their first things.
That is, absolutely. Also, possibly reporting it to authorities, like your local police or what have you.
She's physically abused. Let's say it's a woman. She's physically abused. She goes to the police. The beating is going to increase. So
that's the tough thing. So you would have to basically have a game plan to just, once you leave that door, you're not going back. So you have to quietly pack up your things, get your kids, get everything you need, and sneak out while he's sleeping, and just go to wherever your plan B is, and go and not look back. You cannot go back. If you go back to a narcissist, it's like they've won, because they now know they've got you.
You can't survive without them, and you coming back, they didn't even force you to, you came back at your own volition. So to them, it just strengthens their argument that you need me,
and you're okay with that too. You're okay with how they're treating you. So it's very, very you have to be very strategic. So that's why I say it's very going to be different for everybody, but definitely get a support network. Number one, absolutely important. Tell somebody.
Support network. Tell somebody. Recognize the things or the techniques or the tactics that they employ to keep you mentally, emotionally enslaved. And
make a plan.
Understand the triggers. Because if you trigger them, that could end your life. So understanding how to not trigger them, to push them to that way, but be strategic, make your plan in secret, and have an escape plan in place.
Get out.
Wow.
Get out, fly out, run out, disappear, move to another country, whatever you need to do, city.
That's extreme.
It is, but that's what everybody that's successfully done it has had to do.
Like move to
You often have to do that, move to another city, another country, because if the narcissist knows you're like living down the road, or they
would still come
move,
after you.
20 minutes away, they're going to find out where you live.
But would it be easier though to just go find another mark, like, as opposed to like, that's a reasonable perspective. To be like, okay, she left me, okay, I'll go find. But it takes work to sort of like,
Again, it's on a spectrum, so you never know what someone's going to do. This is why I don't like to label people and put people in a box, because you never know what someone's going to do. And we can say this is what narcissists are like and what they do. In general, there's a general thing that they all do. But at the end of the day, each person's going to do something specific that if they really want that person in their life, they're going to do whatever it takes, and you never know what they're going to do.
So when it comes to, how prevalent would you say narcissism is, especially when it comes to politicians?
I don't know the exact
I know that's
statistics,
a touchy
but
area,
I think it's very, very high. Because most of the people that are politicians are lying. Lying is a huge.
If their mouths are moving, they're lying.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I believe
huge,
that. I hate to say it, but I believe
No, that's a kind of an obvious thing that we've all observed. They gaslight. So they're doing all the traits that a narcissist has, almost every single one of them. So I don't know what the percentage would be. Maybe there's a few good ones here and there, but I don't think there's very many. And this is the problem, I think, with society, that we put them up on a pedestal, right? So we do look up to them because they have these positions of power. And so it's almost like considered a good thing, like in business or at a company, CEOs, right? They're going to be
they have to be competitive.
ruthless.
They have to be ruthless. They have to make.
Yeah.
They have to lay off 1,000 people and not really,
Yeah.
lose sleep over it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it serves their purpose. It serves a purpose for
The
some
bottom
things.
line.
Yeah,
The
the
bottom
bottom line.
Yeah.
But is it healthy for humanity as a whole? Absolutely not. And will we survive as a species like that? Not very well. If we're not taking care of each other on that level of actually genuinely caring, right, then we're going to have a world of just traumatized people running around hurting each other, and it's not a good place to be. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's important to consider.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. How does hypnotherapy work?
Well, it's a way of getting out of the conscious mind. So it's away from your typical responses, and it's getting to the subconscious mind. So it's able to access a lot of the repressed memories and things that maybe we have forgotten about. And if we're trying to deal with an issue that we can't seem to find the answer for in the conscious
It's usually there in the
mind,
subconscious.
yeah, it's somewhere in, like, we have the answers. It is within us, but
Yes.
we can't access it because we keep thinking about it in the conscious mind. So the subconscious mind is actually, this is really interesting, it runs about 95% of our everyday behavior. So
Not the conscious, the
yeah,
subconscious,
yeah,
beneath the
yeah.
surface.
So we think
Wow.
we're consciously going through this world, but we're actually not. And that's the thing about it is, and this is why it's so important, again, to heal anything that's happened or any type of, any incidents that's buried that we're ruminating about, any incidences or things that have happened, because it's still there. Even if we're not aware that it's there, it's still there.
So in
yeah.
order to be effective in your practice, you have to access the subconscious mind.
Exactly.
Because it's what's really rule our behavior.
Yeah.
It's the predictor of a behavior.
Yes.
And how we react to things.
So it's a way of getting into a different brain state. So hypnosis
Yes.
is the alpha brain state is activated.
Yes.
So it's a similar when you're watching TV, right? They know that the advertisers know this. You're going to come home from work, you're really tired, you're going to sit down on the couch, have a beer, whatever. You're going to be in a hypnotic state. You're going to turn on the TV.
Is that why they have sometimes the very almost hypnotic voice?
Absolutely.
It's like, do you feel tired? Like very sympathetic.
And the commercials come on. You're getting hypnotized every time you're watching that. That's why I mute that stuff. I used to. I don't watch TV anymore, but when I used to, I would mute the commercials and mute all that stuff and just watch the program. And you can watch a program consciously as well.
Yes.
But most of the time you're going in a hypnotic state.
It's the trigger,
You're even
yeah.
going in a hypnotic state when you're like daydreaming or just like thinking about things. You're already going into hypnotic state that way.
The first time I sort of picked up, and I would like to call it psychological manipulation. I was watching a documentary, and they said in the documentary that even the music that we listen to in the supermarket
Absolutely.
is designed to get us, to put us in a certain mental state.
Yep.
The smells in the produce section of a supermarket, I heard that they pump fake smells, what was it called? Aromatherapy?
Yeah,
Well, in that case, it's not aromatherapy.
Yeah,
It's to get your money.
yeah,
I wouldn't call it therapy. And the smell, sometimes it's not real. And I'm like, really? Yes, it's not. And that shocked me.
Yeah, no, advertising, commercialism, TV, films, they've always known this. Social media, it's all designed to rewire your brain for their benefit, not
on
for
the
yours.
subconscious level,
On the
not
subconscious,
the conscious, because you don't even
exactly,
know.
Exactly. It's just there on the side, you're scrolling, and then something just pops up, and then it disappears. But it popped up already. Pops up 3 times, now it's there.
Now it's
you just
there.
need to see it like 3 times, and it becomes like a thing. And you also become familiar. I mean, they did that with, they do that with the news, with anything they want you to believe. They keep playing it over and over and over again.
Yes.
So eventually, like, oh, it must be happening, even though they can be fabricating a whole scene. And it might not be true at all, but they'll make it.
So tell me about neuroplasticity. How does that, how does it apply? And what's the main purpose of it within your practice?
Neuroplasticity is amazing, actually, because it's ability of our brain to change. So anything that we keep doing over and over again, we're creating grooves in our brain. So our neurons are firing a certain way. So neuroplasticity is the ability to change the neurons and change the programming. So we can develop a new habit. So say we always wake up and we have a cigarette every morning. That's just what we do.
So for addictions.
Yeah, addictions, say, and you're like, well, that's just what I do. Okay, but you have a choice in changing that. You can wake up and decide, I am not going to do this. It's going to be challenging, but you can also just not do that, right? And if you do that enough times, you're rewiring and reprogramming your brain to wake up and have a smoothie or drink some orange juice, right? Now you're doing something completely different. So it's really habits, and habits create.
So through the very practice, based on what you're telling me, through the very practice of neuroplasticity therapy, you can actually retrain your brain, and then the positiveness comes through by the retraining of your brain, because like you said, the brain creates it. So
it's fascinating. I mean, this is new. Like, neuroscience has come such a long way in knowing this stuff. It literally say it takes about 21 days, about a month, really, to create a new habit. All you need to do is, if you're trying to do something new, do it for 21 days straight, and it'll start to become new you.
Can it cure procrastination?
Yes.
'Cause I think you have a new
yes,
new patient.
absolutely. Yeah, let's sign you up.
I've been working on it myself, but I don't know how effective my practice. What I do is I read somewhere one time that you should not repeat verbally what you want to do. Follow up with actions.
Yes, so that's true. When writing it down helps.
Writing it down helps because it's written down. But I used to be like, I'm going to do this. And I mean it at the moment. And I had an encounter with a producer, I think, on The Flash. And that's when I started slightly turning around my procrastination, or my existence in procrastination. Because I was like, I want to do this, and I want to do that, I want to do this. And he said this one thing to me, this guy, as an aside. He was like, stop saying it. Saying it is like a warm blanket. Imagine you put a warm blanket around you and you want to be warm and you feel fuzzy and warm. And as soon as you don't need the blanket anymore because you're warm, you forget about the blanket. You wouldn't remember where you put it down. And that's what I started trying. It did help me in that degree. So it's all action.
Action is, of course, it's extremely important. And this is the thing. I only see results with clients that do what they have to do. There is work involved. I always leave them after our session. I leave my clients with, it's a 21-day hypnosis that they take home with them. It's a recording, and they have to listen to that for 21 days. If they don't do that, they're not actually doing the most important part of the work. The session is great. They'll get freedom, relief. They'll feel good. Everything will be nice. But the actual work comes in them rewiring their brain through listening to the hypnosis that's created for them that is going to rewire their brain. So if I have a client and they're finished and then they call me the next day like, oh, it didn't work or something. It's happened like once. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't done anything yet.
Did they admit to cheating? Did they admit to slacking off?
Well, I know they're cheated because they're just called me. It hasn't been 21 days. And I'm like, oh, but you haven't done the work yet. The session wasn't the work. The work is yet to be done. But that's the follow through. And that's the part where it's a co-creation. I'm not healing anyone. A person heals themselves. Right? So I'm just creating a space.
But they have to be disciplined, right?
Exactly.
That person wasn't disciplined.
They need to be disciplined, and they need to want to heal too. Some people are so comfortable in where they're at and being depressed or being the way they are. They're like, it's just too unfamiliar. So the brain will always go back to what's familiar. That's one of the rules of the mind. We go back to what's familiar. We do not like,
it's not good for us.
Exactly. We don't like the unfamiliar. And this is why so many people will get in the same relationship patterns over and over and over again. Even if it's negative, they're like, I don't know. I just keep dating the same kind of person. Why? Right? People need to stop and ask themselves why. It's like, you got to start doing something differently. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing the same thing. I had to wake up to this myself. I was like, okay, I can't keep blaming everybody else. I need to see what is my part, because we all have a part in a relationship. What is my part that's saying yes to any of this behavior? I needed to set boundaries, and all these things are super important.
A friend of mine years ago, I still remember today. I used to date really fiery girls, and I'm using fiery as an adjective to describe certain things. And I would never feel happy because I always felt like these girls are ready to go from, and I have to say girls, I was younger. I was dating girls, not
Fair
women.
enough. Yeah.
And they were just ready to go from 0 to 100, insecure, jealous, combative, just all the negative things. And I went to this one friend of mine, and she I didn't get it then, even when she said it. She's like, Chris, these girls are not the problem. And I wasn't ready for that. She's like, you're the problem. I'm like, what do you mean? She's
It's
like,
a good friend.
This is like well, I shouldn't put a number, but she's like, I've known all your ex-girlfriends. Yeah, some of them are crazy, but guess what? Who's the common denominator? I'm like, me. She's like, yeah, they're not the problem. And I still, I hate to say it, I didn't get it. Yeah. She's like, first of all, you're the common denominator. You choose those girls, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, so let me put it to you like this. Why do you attract those girls? Because I like, exactly. You like it, but the reality of it you don't like. You like that energy, but the reality, because it produces stress and suffering.
Yeah.
That's what you're really complaining about. You have a suffering problem, but it's your own doing.
Yeah. And you're addicted to a certain feeling, and that's the thing. You're addicted to a certain way of being, and that's what I mean. It's comfortable. It's like if you grew up in an abusive household, that's home to you. So you are going to find another partner. It's very easy to marry
when you build your own home,
an abusive partner because you're like, but that's home. Yeah. That's what home was like. And I know I've dealt with it this long. I'm still alive, so I must be okay.
So then you self-sabotage yourself because when you find a good person, you're like, wait.
You don't know what to do with
boring.
it. Yes, exactly.
What do I do?
They're too nice.
You're not fighting. You're not going to punch me. You're not going to kick me. You're not going to abuse. So it hurt people. Okay.
You're getting it now, totally. Yeah, that's it.
It woke me up. I only woke up years ago from the relationship part of it because I didn't get it until I realized that I'm hitting a certain place in my life, a space, and I can't continue like that. So the girl, what she told me was, stop attracting those types of girls. When you meet a girl and you see that in her, go the opposite direction. Yeah. And that's when it started turning around for me. And I'm like, oh, it actually works.
I hope she became a therapist. She sounds like she really knows. She's talking about a relationship coach or something.
We were really close, but she was smart.
A good friend,
she
either way.
She was way smarter than me. And she kind of put me down on it. And I'm like, okay. And then I started seeing different results. And for me, that was just like, okay, that's what it is. So for you, at the end of the day, when you have a successful, like, let's say you have a client and they come in and they need your help and you give them all this information and whatever, and they come out the other end. I mean, I don't think we all fully heal, but we get on the path.
It's a journey.
How does that feel to you?
Oh, amazing. I mean, it happens within a span of 2 hours.
Do you get follow-ups like from clients?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I follow up with them as well. So I'll always ask how they're doing, like a month from now, a year from now. So that's when that's how I know it works, because the people that do the work, it does work. And that's where I get the confidence in knowing, okay, I'm on the right path, and this is working. This is worth doing. So yeah, basically if they're doing the work, and their intention is pure, they really want the healing, they will get it. It's whatever you put into it, you will get out of it.
Do you ever find yourself when you have a client to do sort of an emergency situation like RTT? Is that an emergency form of therapy?
No, it stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy. So it means it works really quickly.
Yes.
But it's best to not be in a traumatized state. Like, you do need to be calm.
So you want them to, okay.
Yeah. You don't want it like if an accident
just
happened.
Oh my God, you're in the emergency.
Yeah, like if they witnessed a car accident or stabbing or something yesterday and they come to you to deal with it, that's probably, I would wait a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they need to be relaxed. The person has to be in a relaxed state, and that's how you hypnotize someone. Is they need to be relaxed enough to take in the new information. And
how effective is it though? How effective is RTT?
It's very effective so far in my experience and in my mentor. I mean, that's why she does it, and that's why she's been going around and speaking about it, because she was doing other kinds of therapy, and then therapists were coming to her. So other psychologists were coming to her. Because they weren't getting the results.
Did she create rapid?
Yeah, exactly. So this particular one, is her like her baby.
Wow.
And so But she originally, I believe, learned from Milne. His name was the original hypnotist that taught her. So, yeah, she's had amazing results, and she works with celebrities and people that have achieved high status in the world and money, fame, all these kinds of things, and they still feel empty, like there's something missing.
Yeah.
And then, then you go a little deeper and you realize, oh, they have this childhood wound or something that they're covering up, and then they're trying to feed it with money and fame and more women or more men, and it's just not, they're still not getting happy.
Empty bucket.
Right? So the whole point is you're trying to get to that authentic joy and authentic happiness, being who you are, the way you are, as you are, without any extra frills and things.
So what are the common practice or things that you tell your clients or advise them in order to really maintain a positive state of mind moving forward in life, despite the trauma, despite the negativity and toxicity? What are if you can give us a few things that you kind of advise them that would help them on their journey as they move forward?
There's a few things you can do. Exercise is huge. Exercise really helps.
Working out, jogging.
Yeah, working out, just getting your body to that good feeling, natural good feels, right? And just doing that alone is huge. Writing, journaling, so keeping track of your own moods and how you're feeling.
Dieting. One's diet, does that?
Yeah, the food, absolutely. What you eat absolutely such a big.
Because we eat every day.
People
it's like
don't
breathing.
realize. Yeah, they eat junk food and they're like, I don't know why I'm depressed. It's like, what did you eat today? Processed food out of a bag or something. Totally unhealthy, fried foods, whatever you
move the body, keep
body,
working
fresh
out.
Foods, fruits, vegetables, spring water, stay on the healthy track. Anything natural, stick with things from the earth.
Yes.
Mother Earth is amazing and is our medicine. She has everything we need. We don't need to go anywhere else for it. Journaling, writing, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you filling your mind with? Who's around you? Are you hanging out with druggies all day?
Yeah.
Or people that are talking, mean, horrible things? Or are you hanging out with positive people that are talking about their goals and aspirations and dreams, right? You're going to have two totally different
all of those
ways
things
of feeling.
put together, if practiced, and if you apply discipline to
self-discipline, I was going to say that's the next one. Disciplining the mind,
you will reap the rewards. But you have to be honest about it.
Yes.
And understand how important it is.
That's exactly. And that's where the journaling comes in. I took a yoga course. I'm certified in yoga years ago, and we had to literally document every hour what we were doing, and we had to religiously write that down, so you could really see over 2 weeks what you did every single day. What you do every day becomes who you are.
It's true.
It forms a part of your personality. It forms a big part of how you think and feel. And again, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you listening to? Who are you talking to on the phone? Who's your best friend?
And birds of a feather flock together. Show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're going to have friends that are going through stuff, and sometimes we have to listen, and we want to help them out.
Keep them at a distance.
Even that, sometimes you're going to have to tell them, look, you really need therapy. You need professional help. You need to see someone, and not me, because, they need someone outside of them.
Yes.
It shouldn't be a friend. It should be someone else. And surround yourself with people that are healthy, happy, right? So that makes a huge difference. I mean, if you're around someone that's constantly criticizing you, or like we talked about earlier, in a relationship with a narcissist, and they're putting you down and making you feel crazy, how do you think you're going to feel? Not very good, right? I mean,
so narcissists,
you got to get away from that stuff.
So if we have narcissistic people out there and you're watching this, book a consultation. We're going to close it out. Suzka, thank you so much. And to our viewers, leave a comment. Please subscribe. To contact Suzka, to book a consultation with her, you can do it through her website, which is in the comment section at the bottom. Like or leave a comment or ask a question, because she will be back. Thank you for watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Chris Rogers. Thank you, Suzka, for coming.
Thanks so much.
I do it to all my guests. Are you going to come back?
Yes, absolutely.
In the future.
It's so much fun, yeah.
Okay, so it's on camera. She can't back out. We'll have her back again.
I'll be back.
Thank you so much, guys, and tuning out. Thanks.